All right, thanks everyone. I think we're going to go ahead and get started here again. If everyone could please take their seats. All right, it's my privilege to introduce our keynote speaker, Director Peter Alviti, Director of the Rhode Island Department of Transportation. Peter became the Director of the Rhode Island Department of Transportation in February of 2015 with a mandate from the Governor's Office to plan, fund, and implement a strategic framework for rebuilding Rhode Island's infrastructure and to reorganize the department to provide more cost-effective project delivery. At the time, Rhode Island's bridges were ranked the worst in the nation. Within 8 months, Director Alviti put forth a 10-year transportation plan designed to systematically repair roads and bring the state's bridges into a state of good repair within 10 years, replacing 150 structurally deficient bridges and repairing an additional 500. It was a first for Rhode Island and made the state one of only 3 in the nation with such a plan. It transformed the project planning and selection process from an antiquated political process into an effective, data-driven, asset management planning methodology based on defined metrics that will save Rhode Islanders over $1 billion in the first 10 years. I'll read that again. That will save Rhode Islanders over $1 billion in the first 10 years. Pretty impressive. Director Alviti, thank you for being with us today.
Good morning. Being among contractors like this is I always feel that this is my safe place to be. And it really is, because when I came into DOT, when Gina Raimondo asked me to take over DOT 10 years ago, I mean, it flew by, but I came from the private sector, and I very much made it a point at our DOT to kind of switch over from an old paradigm of funding and planning and project management and all of those things, but more importantly, to create a collaborative kind of environment between our DOT and all of you. And as we adapted new methodologies, and it's been a bumpy road, I mean, that the collaboration between DOTs and you guys is always, particularly when we're in the heat of actually doing the work, can become at times contentious and that. But there's value in that. We see value in that. That the important thing through working all, for example, the previous presentation on delays, working through those kinds of problems with you create, I hope, over the years, will create a stronger bond between us so that as we collaborate and act as partners in what we do, we all become more successful. The DOTs, the consultant professions, the contracting professions, and labor, another important part of what we do. And early on, Governor Raimondo, now Secretary, right, understood the importance of bringing together those groups and having everybody put their shoulder into an effort together instead of looking out for our separate interests. Government looking out for theirs, contractors looking out for theirs, and etc. And it worked. She created a plan, and I was happy to be a part of it, that brought those 4 groups together to all aim and work together jointly to get legislation in Rhode Island that never existed before. That created a plan, a 10-year plan. They had 4-year plans that they regurgitated every 4 years a decade ago, and now we have a 10-year plan that everybody can look to. We adapted what you've been doing in business for years. You plan ahead 10 years for your companies. We weren't. So we adapted that policy. We came together and we created a more definable, predictable future for ourselves and for you to be able to plan out your finances and your resources to match the demand that we created for the projects that we do. But we did more than that. We put our shoulders together into working with our congressional delegation, our 5th partner, and the Federal Highway Administration, our 6th partner in this effort, to get the funding more predictably to fulfill that 10-year plan. So we weren't working with a typical wonderful plan, uh, but not able to actually execute it because we didn't have the money to do it. A lot of things came into focus during that time. In Rhode Island, we created what we think of as the predecessor to the IIJA by about 5 years, right? Um, in our roadworks legislation, because it created a definable funding pattern ahead for us, our state DOT. And then in 2021, the IIJA gave a federal look at actually funding, unique idea, right? Funding for 5 years, and giving us some predictable funding, at least for that 5 year period. Well, I had a lot of, my comps folks put together a lot of history and kind of a look back at the success that we've had working together with with you contractors and the work that you've done to help us be successful in Rhode Island and get, what was described as decades, almost century-old issues in Rhode Island with decaying bridges. We had more than a quarter of our bridges 10 years ago were structurally deficient. And with your help and with your work and with your ingenuity and innovations, we're able to create new working relationships that actually have brought that 27% down to 12% this year, and within another year we'll be down to less than 10% for the first time in history. Looking back at Rhode Island, I don't know how many years. But here's the thing: there's still a lot to do. We've all been busy the last few years, thanks to the kind of funding that we've gotten and the pipeline that we've created in Rhode Island to take that funding and get it out to you folks and get the money into the ground in the form of new infrastructure, right? And we've created a great pipeline at DOT to be able to take that and immediately put it out every time we get a new revenue stream from the federal government in terms of grants or even the IIJA itself. We have a plan to immediately put that and create a pipeline for that money to get out in the way of projects. But it's been 10 years since we started our 10-year plan, and the 10-year plan is updated every year. So we've always got a 10-year plan 10 years out. The matching federal funding that we need, and in Rhode Island, it's about 80%. We get 80% match from the federal government. Two things, as I look ahead, are very concerning to me that we really need to. We should have started a couple of years ago working more diligently on this, but I think we need to work with you folks and the other partners that we have to look ahead now to see where, we're in year 3 of a 5-year IIJA plan. That means that in 2 years, in 26, that the last of that money is going to be spent on our projects, right? And here we are for the first time in many years, having 5 years of definable spending in heavy and highway type work. What are the prospects in 26, 27, 28, and beyond? Do we go back to the 1-year allocations of funding from Federal Highway and US DOT? It's looking that way, right? So I think that's only a year or two away. I mean, the IIJA, or the concept of it, was kicked around for decades before it actually got done, right? So now we have it done, and I'm not seeing anything on the tail end of that picks up and continues the work that we're doing. And this whole idea of, if we look historically at our industry, at the DOT spending, but also your industry in heavy highway, the expansion and contraction of work and business and the economy of the heavy highway industry um, is something that I think is very important for all of us to work for toward to kind of level out and smooth out so that there's a smooth incline every year. That as we look ahead in our 10-year plans, you and your business 10-year plans, and us in our capital improvement plans, we can know with certainty that the funding is going to be there for us to plan ahead, plan our resources, plan our workforce, etc., to do it. It's not like we don't have a. It's not like we have a shortage of things to do, right? Everybody here knows that regardless of the amount of work that we're doing now and the improvements that we've made, even in Rhode Island, we've gone, as I said, not just taking our bridge, let alone our stormwater systems and our paving and all of that. But if we look at just that component, going from 27 down to 10% deficiency in a 10-year period, um, there's still another 10% of structurally deficient bridges that people are riding on every day. In a modern economy in a country like the United States, that needn't be the case. And it provides plenty of work ahead for all of your companies to be working on. But with that, we need to work, I think, cooperatively and put our shoulders together again to make sure, beginning from now, that we're driving the Congress and the administrations in Washington and in our states to keep their eye on the ball, not to lose sight that if we let up or we don't continue the kind of five-year or 10-year definable funding. I mean, ideally, it'd be great now to bring the US DOT and Federal Highway into the same 10-year plans that your companies have and that our DOT has, so that at least for 5 years out on them, we have dedicated, predictable, reliable funding in place for those projects that we can all plan our lives and our businesses together. And I think, I could give you all the statistics in Rhode Island about what we've done and what we can't do, but I think the one message that I'd like to convey to you today, while I have you all here, this was like 5 minutes ago, sitting down and figured, forget about this. Let's talk about something that, while I got you, that we can think about and begin to work together, us with our CERI group in Rhode Island, and all of you collaborating together on a regional basis. That if we're all rowing in the same directions, if you all in your industries, in your professions, and us on the government side, along with our congressional delegations and the administrations, and labor, which is, a vital partner in all of this. If we're all working together toward that common goal of making sure there's a definable pipeline of funding for all of the necessary work. I mean, as good as the work that we're currently doing is, and as busy as we all are doing it, we need to make sure that that's sustainable in order to provide a sustainable transportation system, which again is all money, and it's proven over and over again. The money that we're spending on the infrastructure is money that comes back to us in dividends in government and in society in terms of economic development, and safety, and all of the other benefits that flow from it, not to mention employment opportunities. What good paying employment opportunities for people. It is probably the singular best investment that our country could be making, right? It feeds back in, it comes back to us in dividends in so many ways as a society and as a country. It makes us stronger. And I think it's so important now to, now that we have some momentum coming out of the IIJA and all of the many grant programs that have been created in recent years. We need to now really put our shoulders into it to make sure that that momentum continues, so that your companies can continue to grow, so that we could continue to provide employment, and that we can produce a transportation system that becomes the envy of the world instead of the disdain of the world when we're viewed upon in comparison to other countries with their infrastructure. This is the time, I think. This is the time, I think, that we need to really begin that collaboration. We can talk about collaboration on projects and collaboration in the form of the way that we make the projects work and the minutia of that day-to-day kind of collaboration. It's very important. I'm certainly not diminishing that. It's very important for us to find ways to better collaborate, to match our contractual obligations with our actual actions, both in government and with you folks. But I think what's more important right now for us in the long run is going to be the collaboration that we experienced several years ago with the industries and the partners in the creation of roadworks, and then IIJA and Congress. It's important now to make sure that that collaboration stays in place and actually increases in effort, because this next 5 years after the IIJA are going to be crucial to make sure that the funding is there again to create the same kind of fertile ground that your companies have been able to grow on during these years, that we have been able to make improvements in transportation infrastructure at the government level on. And it's very important for us to make sure that's sustainable and that that continues. So I thank you for allowing me to speak here today. I'm sorry if that I had a shift in topic, but I thought, as I said, while I had you all here, while I got you, this would be a good opportunity for us all to be thinking about how we shape the future for ourselves instead of letting others do it for us, right? That your plans, your company 10-year plans, our 10-year plans need to become the milestones for which we call for action and demand action by our government in order to continue the good work that we've been doing. And I'm so pleased to work with you all in Rhode Island. I look forward to continuing that collaboration. As I said, we got little bumps in the roads and things, but that doesn't stop us from continuing to think of you as partners, to be able to collaborate with you and plan ahead. And I really look forward, and we're, anytime any of you would like to discuss, I know we meet with our CERI group on a regular basis, and even you regionally, feel free to reach out, and any way that we can collaborate and put our shoulders together and get into this future funding of our infrastructure. I think it'll be well worth it. So thanks for having me, and congratulations on the good work that you all do, and I thank you for the good work that you're doing. And we're really looking forward to the next 10 years, right? Thank you.